At 25, you're going to work 80 hours for someone else's dream. At 35, you'll sacrifice weekends for someone else's emergency. By 45, you'll delay vacations for someone else's deadline. But at 50 plus, this is what I call the no more BS phase of your career. Now let's examine that BS meter. So at age 20, we are 25% full and we're still feeling that little bit of optimism. In our 30s, we are 60% full and we're starting to really question what's going on. By our 40s, we are 95% full and we are dangerously close to explosion. But by age 50, we are overflowing and it's time for that revolution. Hey there, my name is Kathryn Porritt, and at 50, I'm exploring the most beautiful timeline in our professional development. The moment when you finally hit your BS threshold and decide to build something extraordinary for yourself instead. Now let's be honest about something. Your 20s, your 30s, your 40s were basically a BS tolerance training program. In each of those decades, you accepted increasingly ridiculous workplace demands because you thought that's what career advancement looked like. But here's what no one tells you. There's a magical moment, usually around 50, when your internal BS detector finally calibrates correctly and you realize that you have spent literally decades optimizing for everyone else's success while your own dreams collected dust in some forgotten corner of your mind. But here, ladies and gentlemen, is the revelation. What if I spend the next 20 years being as dedicated to my own empire as I've been to everyone else's desires? Now, today, we're going to go on a journey through the decades of BS accumulation and the glorious liberation that happens when you finally say no more and you start building your expert business. Welcome to your no more BS era. And it's about to get very, very good. Now, let me take you back through the decades of professional BS tolerance building, and warning, you may experience flashbacks. Let me take you way back to your 20s. I call this the enthusiastic optimist phase. Now, particularly for those of us who are 50 plus, we had that opinion at our 22-year-old self, we'll work 80 hours a week, I'll take on every assignment, I'll prove myself. We had a BS tolerance level of basically 0, and everything seemed like a learning opportunity. What they said to us at this time was, this is a great growth opportunity. What it meant was we're giving you 3 people's jobs for 1 person's salary. But what you heard optimistically was, they believe in my potential. The 22-year-old you says, this is fine. I'm building character, but you are actually building tolerance for increasingly ridiculous demands. All right, now we hit our 30s and we are in that climbing the ladder phase. That ambitious 30-something you saying, I need to be strategic about my career advancement. Your BS tolerance level at this point is moderately high. You've learned to navigate those corporate politics, but you have escalating BS scenarios. We've all been here. Scenario 1, missing your kid's birthday for a client emergency that turned out to just be a typo in a PowerPoint. Scenario 2, working through your vacation because the team really needs you. But actually, they could figure it out fine without you if you just had boundaries, right? And then scenario 3 is taking on all of those additional projects because it shows leadership potential. You're ready for the C-suite. You want those opportunities. What it's actually showing the leadership team, though, is that you're willing to be exploited. I'm sure you can all remember this. What they said to you was, we need a team player. What it meant was, we need someone to do the work that nobody else wants. What you heard was, I'm being considered for leadership. C-suite, here I come. Now, what they said was, this project is highly visible. What it meant was, if I succeed, we'll take the credit, but if it fails, you're responsible. And what you heard was, this could be my big break. Oh my goodness, I have so been here. The 30 something working on weekends. I've got family photos around me, looking at me accusingly. I'm saying to myself, I'm making sacrifices for my future, but my future was making sacrifices for someone else's present. All right, now thankfully we hit our 40s, but we're not quite there yet. We're about the exploitation phase. So you've suddenly become that experienced executive, but you're dealing with increasingly absurd demands. That 42-year-old you is saying, I have expertise that they need. Surely now I'll be valued appropriately. Your BS tolerance level is dangerously high. You've become the go-to person for impossible situations. We've all been here. Scenario 1, being asked to save a project that was doomed from the start due to someone else's poor planning. Scenario 2 is training your replacement while being told your position is being restructured. And scenario 3, being volunteered for the task force that everyone knows is punishment disguised as opportunity. At 40 plus, what they said to you was, we need you to be agile and adaptable. What it meant was, we're changing your job responsibilities weekly. What you heard was, they appreciate my flexibility. What they said to you, this role will give you great exposure. What it meant was, you'll be exposed to blame when things go wrong. And what you heard was, finally, recognition. Now, because this was only yesterday, I hear you, I see you, that 40-something executive looking exhausted in the corner office, that 42-year-old you saying, I've worked so hard to get here. Why do I feel so empty? Because here wasn't where you wanted to be. It was where someone else needed you to be. And then magically it happens. Usually around 50, the moment when your internal BS detector finally recalibrates and you see everything clearly. We have that great awakening moment. So you now stepping into your 50s in another pointless meeting with the meeting leader saying to you, we need to circle back on the action items from the stakeholder alignment session about the preliminary discussion regarding the potential consideration of maybe thinking about you standing up slowly, saying, stop, just stop. This is insane, and we all know it. Throwing up your hands in the air and finally saying, I'm going to go build something that actually does. And thus begins the most profitable phase of your career. Now, stepping into your expert business, everything transforms. What it looked like in your 40s suddenly becomes free and clear and concise and simple. So your 40s calendar might look like Monday, crisis management meetings, Tuesday, fixing someone else's mistake, Wednesday, mandatory team building, Thursday, working on weekend project preparation, Friday, we've got an emergency all hands meeting, Saturday, work, Sunday, prepare for Monday's crisis. That 50 plus expert business calendar is so freeing. On a Monday, you've got strategic planning. On Tuesday, we've got premium client consultations. Wednesday, we've got content creation because you are the talent in your business. On Friday, we have business development if you feel like it. And then on the weekend, we actually have a weekend. The realization is that you've been optimizing for busy instead of optimizing for value. And once you hit 50 plus and your BS tolerance resets to 0, you operate by completely different principles. Let me show you the transformation. Principle 1, time is finite. BS is optional. Now, before, it may have been, I need to attend every meeting I'm invited to because it shows I'm engaged. But after, in an expert business, does this meeting have a clear agenda and specific outcomes? No, then I am not attending. Your old response might have been, oh, so sorry, I can't make it. I have a conflict, but please send me the notes and let me know if there's anything that I can do to help. But your new response, with your certainty and your no BS, is this meeting doesn't align with my priorities. Decline. The principle is that every minute spent on BS is a minute not spent building your empire. Principle number 2 is that expertise has value, so we're going to charge for it. Now, your colleague might say to you, hey, can I pick your brain about this strategy issue? It'll just take a few minutes. Now, before, you would have said, of course, let me drop everything and spend an hour solving your problems for you for free. But afterwards, with an expert business, I'd be happy to help. My consultation rate is $500 an hour with a minimum 2-hour engagement. Should I send you the proposal? The principle is, if your advice is valuable enough to seek, it's valuable enough to pay for. Principle number 3 are that boundaries are business tools. Now, before boundaries were available 24/7 for urgent requests, willing to work weekends for any team needs, takes on extra projects just to be helpful, and never says no to leadership requests. But afterwards, with your expert business, we have clearly defined office hours. We have weekend work costs double. Extra projects require additional compensation. No is a complete sentence because the principle is that boundaries aren't walls, they're business terms and conditions. Now, principle number 4 is your dreams matter more than their emergencies. Before, you may have been, quickly, the phone is ringing. How can I help you solve this crisis right now? But after, set that phone down. That's what business hours are for. The principle is that poor planning on their part doesn't constitute an emergency on your part. Here's what happens when you apply the no BS principles to building your expert business. Transformation number 1, from employee to business owner. Now, your employee mindset might have been, I need to prove my worth by being available and helpful. But an expert owner mindset is I need to build something valuable and charge appropriately for it. So a potential client might be saying to you, we love your expertise, but our budget is really tight. And an expert business owner says, I understand budget constraints. When your budget matches the value of the work, let's talk. The transformation is from convincing people to pay you to having people convince you to work with them. Transformation number 2, from reactive to strategic. Now, your reactive schedule might have been responding to urgent emails, attending mandatory meetings, fixing other people's mistakes, and working on whatever is the loudest. But our strategic schedule in our expert business looks more like building valuable IP, developing those premium offerings, nurturing profitable relationships, creating systems for scale. And that shift is from responding to chaos to creating value. Transformation 3, from exhausted to energized. Now, before you might have been working 60 hours a week on things that don't matter, but afterwards, even if you are still working 60-hour a week, you are working on things that create millions for you. The secret is when you stop doing BS work, you have the energy for brilliant work. Transformation number 4, from undervalued to premium priced. So your corporate salary might have been a fixed amount regardless of what value you created. Your consulting rate might be, say, $200 an hour. Now, I'm okay with that. When we get to expert premium, where my clients live, we're at $25K a month confidently. That realization that your expertise is worth way more than your corporate salary ever was. All right, now once you've recalibrated that BS detector, you need a system to maintain your new standards. So here is your toolkit. Write these down. The BS detection questions. Now, before accepting any opportunity, ask yourself the value question. Does this create value for me or just consume my time? The very important alignment question. Does this move me towards my goals or away from them? The opportunity cost question. What am I not doing if I do this? The respect question. Are they respecting my time, my expertise, and my boundaries? The joy question. Will this energize me or will it drain me? I want you to constantly have this light system in your head. You want to live in the green zone, high value, aligned with goals and energizing work. Yellow zone, moderate value, requires negotiation. We want to avoid. And then that red zone, avoid at all costs. BS detected, decline immediately. So here's what your new timeline looks like when you embrace the no more BS approach. Months 1 to 3 is the detox phase. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, this really is hard to do, but once you do it, amazing. Clear your calendar of BS commitments, set and communicate those new boundaries, and begin building your expert positioning. Months 4 to 6, we're in that building phase. We're going to be launching our premium offerings, we're attracting those high value clients, and we're developing our expertise assets. Months 7 to 12, the rubber is really hitting the road. We're in that scaling phase of our expert business. We're increasing our rates regularly. We're building systems for efficiency and we're creating multiple revenue streams. Now, year 1's behind us and we're hitting that empire phase where we're working less while earning more. We're choosing only premium opportunities and we're building lasting wealth and impact. The beautiful irony of this is the less BS you tolerate, the more successful you become. You move into the world of the icon. The result is higher income, better outcomes, actual fulfillment. It is your iconic empire. Here's what I wish I could tell every executive approaching 50. Your BS tolerance recalibration isn't a midlife crisis. It's a midlife clarity. It's your internal wisdom finally overriding decades of corporate conditioning. The journey is from accepting BS to recognizing BS to eliminating BS to building something brilliant instead. You've spent decades optimizing for other people's success. You have mastered that corporate theater, political navigation, and professional people pleasing. Now it is your absolute time to use that experience, that wisdom, that expertise to build something extraordinary for yourself. If you're ready to enter that no more BS era and build an expert business that reflects your true value, I've created something specifically for people who are done with corporate theatre and ready for entrepreneurial success. Iconic Brand Live is designed for executives over 50 who are ready to stop building someone else's dream and start creating their own empire. It's not about starting over, it's about finally starting what you should have built decades ago. Visit iconicbrandlive.com and discover how to transform your decades of expertise into the most profitable, fulfilling chapter of your life yet. Now, a final message to you. Your BS meter is finally calibrated correctly. Trust it, honor it, build your empire around it. I'm Kathryn Porritt, and your no more BS era starts now.